Hello and welcome back. Now, as we head towards our fantasy playoffs, it's more important than ever to understand what your team does well, what you need to add, and how to replace players when they go on IR or when they're underperforming. So if you've watched this channel for any amount of time, I'm sure you've seen the player hubs that I use in the videos, but this tool goes much deeper than just a snapshot of what a player is good at. So today I thought I'd show an example of using the player hub to find players on the waiver wire that provide you with the category coverage you need. And let's start with a case example I got from the Discord group. Zay was trying to find a replacement for Sean Dursey because of his time on ice. Now, we don't have time on ice as a part of the hub here, but we can replace him with the stats that you need. So he's looking for assists and power play points. They're both right around the same area, 83rd and 84th percentile respectively. So now we're just filtering out, this is all the D, and we'll go to assist per game percentile, and we'll put it up to right about 80%, just to get sort of close to what you're trying to replace. And then power play points per game, let's go up to 80th percentile there. And so this will filter out all of the players that don't meet these criteria. So now there's a couple of interesting names that you could look at to potentially replace Sean Dursey. Obviously, you're going to have to look on whatever you're using, Yahoo or ESPN, for your ownership percentage. But there are a couple guys here that I see are relatively ownable. Guys like Cam Fowler, he's potentially ownable. I don't know what the status of Tony DeAngelo is going to be after last night and his potential suspension, but he might be ownable. Philip Hronik's stock might have dropped a bit since being traded. There's a couple different guys that you could get access to. If you still can trade, this will at least give you some targets to go for if you're trying to replace this player, Sean Dursey. Or he was also talking about Adam Boquist, who's a very similar player as well. He would be available if you wanted to replace one with the other, but Boquist, for whatever reason, is on third pair 5-on-5, so that's not going to help him with his time on ice. But this is just one example. We could do another example. Let's say, let's clear all the filters and say that you wanted to add some shot volume. You're down in your week, you're in a head-to-head categories league, and you need shot volume for the rest of this week or whatever. So now you can either do it by the shots per game percentile, or you can do it literally by shots per game. So let's say I wanted somebody with 3 shots per game, and let's say it had to be a center. Now you go to centers who are getting 3 shots per game because centers are a little bit more available on the waiver wire. And then you probably go to the bottom of the list to start because these are going to be the less owned up players. Obviously, these guys at the top are all owned up. If Eriksson Ek is available, he would be the number one ad out of this group. He probably won't be available though. So the only guy that you may be able to get is Backlund, maybe Verhaeghe, who is apparently dual eligible. And then, some of these guys, Dylan Larkin may or may not be there for you. Kadri may or may not be there for you depending on league size. But this is how you can kind of use the filters on the player hub to find exactly what you need to win your head-to-head matchups. And let's just do one more quick example. So let's say you can use this little button right here to cancel out all of the filters that you just added on. And you can, filter by position. You can filter by team. So let's look at a team. Let's say Boston has a 4-game week this week, and you're looking for hits and blocks. So I would go to Boston, and I would find just the Boston Bruins. I would probably prefer using a defenseman for hits and blocks, so I would filter out just the D. And then I would look at blocks per game percentile. Let's say at least 75%. That's going to be a pretty good barometer of being a decent hits and blocks defenseman. And let's do the same thing for hits, 75th percentile. And so now you get a sense of these are the guys that you could potentially add in a 4-game week for Boston to help you get hits and blocks. So Orlov is obviously the number one, but let's say he's owned up in my league. So now I go to Clifton and I look up what does he do for me? Well, 94th percentile in hits, 87th in blocks. That's pretty good. And he's getting a little bit of offensive exposure, not any power play time, but at least there's something offensively to provide for my team. Obviously, if you can get Orlov, just type him in right there, and he's much more complete. So he's a little bit lower on the hits and blocks. So if you only need hits and blocks, maybe Clifton's the better option. But if you need hits and blocks with some other category coverage, then obviously if you can get Orlov, you can target him because he's more complete at a 74. So this is kind of how you can use this tool to your advantage during your fantasy playoffs, and this could come in handy for all of your matchups head to head, entering into the playoffs and then throughout the playoffs, trying to replace that one guy that's going to get you that category coverage that you need. This is the tool to use because this can get you exactly what you need to cover, and you can try to pair it up with whatever your ownership percentages are in your league and try to figure out the best way forward. Now, it's a lot better than going in blind and trying to do it on Yahoo's website because this gives you a snapshot of the entire player and what you're going to get out of them compared to just looking at the individual stats. So just wanted to highlight this ahead of your fantasy playoffs. You can find this in the Patreon link in the description below. But this was a unique case study that we had this morning, just talking to some of the guys in the Discord group and trying to replace a specific player. So I wanted to hop on and show you that real quick. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks again, and I will see you in the next one.